So box.
Hi, my name is Rochelle, and you're watching or listening to Box F1 Pod. We're back. Did you miss us? I miss it. I was so sad without Formula One. My weekends were just like incomplete. It was weird, but we're back. We just finished the Dutch Grand Prix, and it was quite honestly, was expecting a little bit more, but here we are. We do still have so much to discuss. You know, there was minimal action on track. We still got a fun ending. We still had some great performances. And of course, we have all of summer break to discuss. There's drama, there's gossip, there's announcements. Like now I have to be a Williams fan. Who did this to me and why? And there potentially might be 3 Australians on the grid, because we have some more announcements. So we'll get into all that. First race back, I did not cook today, but I am still enjoying some Dutch delicacies. I'm having stroopwafels, and they're delicious. And I should be, in theory, enjoying them with some coffee or something, but I am enjoying them with orange wine. And the reason I am having orange wine is because of the Orange Army, because I love Max, and so does the entire country of the Netherlands. So in honor of Max, I'm having stroopwafels and orange wine, and we're gonna discuss it all. So without further ado, it's time for the digital warm-up. Lap 1, silly season roundup. Whew. So I know we had a bit of a break, and I never did a Spa episode. So this is all the news we've acquired since before Spa, through summer break until now. So there's quite a bit of information for us to get through. Before I get into the fun, exciting ones, I'm gonna go through all the off-grid changes, so team changes, not driver changes. Audi, Mattia Binotto, long time no here, has re-signed up for Formula One and has been signed up for the Audi project. Now, I originally assumed that announcement with Mattia Binotto joining the Audi project meant he'd be joining as team principal. But after that, we got another announcement saying that Jonathan Wheatley, who is currently the sporting director of Red Bull, will now be Audi's team principal. So not really sure what Mattia is going to be, but maybe this is like a smart move and they will not be putting him in charge of people stuff, and he can just tinker away in his little garage and make the Audi car brilliant. Also, someone made a comment that everyone's leaving Red Bull except for Checo, and it's kind of true. All right, Alpine team principal. It was announced like right at the end of Spa, I think, towards the beginning of the summer break, that Bruno Famin, who was the temporary team principal that was there for like a year and a half after they kicked out Otmar, will now be relocated to another area of Alpine by the end of the summer break. So Dutch Grand Prix, we kicked it off without Bruno. Took them long enough to get rid of Bruno, honestly. Bruno, based on Drive to Survive, looked like he wanted to be anywhere besides at the helm of F1. Or really that he should be at the helm of a team. Just didn't seem his vibe. He also seemed like a dick. But he has been replaced with Oliver Oakes. Oliver Oakes is currently the team principal for High Tech Grand Prix team in F2 and F3. I assume, I probably should have double checked this, but I assumed that he took over as soon as Bruno stepped down or was relocated. But then who took over his job in F2 and F3? I'm sure that's not the biggest concern, but I assume someone took over unless they have another temporary person, but I didn't see that announcement. So I'm assuming someone took over his duties over in F2 and F3. Okay, driver updates for 2025. First of all, Esteban Ocon has signed a multi-year contract with Haas. Fun fact, Esteban has seemingly followed the career trajectory of Nico Hulkenberg throughout the years. So he replaced Nico at Force India, and then he replaced Nico at Renault, and now he'll replace Nico at Haas. Which is sort of what was happening with Daniel and Carlos, except then no one took Daniel to Ferrari, so that all went tits up. All right, speaking of, Carlos. So the very first day of summer break, Carlos officially announced that he would be signing with Williams from 2025 onwards. It's not even like a stop off like we all expected him to be. Like we all expected it to be like a 1-year contract, but no, it's like multi-year. I'm sure he can break the contract at any time should a better team want him. Can't see why they wouldn't, but so far it's a multi-year contract, which I guess for security reasons, whatever. It's definitely strange. I will say that I don't know what other offers he did have, but I can understand that perhaps he meshes well with James Vowles, because James Vowles is a very analytical person, and I feel like that could really entice someone like Carlos, who's always like analyzing and like wanting the numbers and the stats, and he's just like always thinking. He's like very team principal in that way, so I feel like he would really get along with James Vowles in that sense. And I also think him and Alex will now be one of the strongest pairings on the grid. It's unfortunate that it's the back of the grid. Hopefully they'll be front soon. But I do think they're a very, very strong pairing, and I think the three of them together will be very strong. I am, of course, putting aside my very, very personal feelings about James Vowles. I do think they will work well together. The only thing I'm concerned about is that Alex was definitely sold the idea of being the leader of Williams, and he has been so far. And on one hand, as much as I think he likes Logan, it would probably be nice to have someone a bit more on his level, I suppose. However, Carlos has just come off winning multiple races from one of the best teams on the grid, Ferrari. Like, yeah, he's used to playing second fiddle, I think. Like, he has a Ferrari, he did a McLaren, he was never the favorite, but Carlos has very valid self-confidence in himself, so I think that might cause an issue. I like who's the lead. Hopefully they can do like a very equal pairing, you know, like they each have their strengths and they'll bring that to the table, and hopefully it'll work out. But I do kind of sense that they could struggle to maintain that dynamic. I'm sure it'll start that way, but like as time goes on, it might be difficult. So on one thing, I do think it's positive. I am upset to see Carlos shunned to the back of the grid, but I love Alex and Lily so much. I love Carlos, and I guess I've long resigned to the fact that my loyalties follow Carlos, more or less. So I guess I'm a Williams girly now. Gonna get myself some Williams merch. Also, this is more like rumors and like weird gossipy stuff, but James Vowles has been saying some very random concerning things, or maybe just the way he's phrasing things. Like one thing he said in the announcement video about Carlos joining the team was, even as I tell you this, a wave of emotion floods my body. Like, did we really need to phrase it like it's a fan fiction? No, but he's definitely speaking about it in this way, and he also seemed to have implied that he's been pursuing Carlos long before Ferrari had signed like Lewis or anything, while he was still very committed to Ferrari and Ferrari to him. Also, it seems like James has been saying that they like talked every night, and like, I don't know. I think he wanted to relay the fact that he was very committed and very sure in his decision with Carlos, but it's coming off weird. The way he's phrasing it is weird. But this brings me to the last issue I have with all of this, and that's Logan, because Logan is where my beef with James Vowles truly started. If you recall, the departure of all the Haas drivers was announced before the arrival of the new Haas drivers was announced. That feels standard and just, I don't know, polite to do. Like, why would you announce it? Like, even like in a regular 9-to-5 job, you're not gonna like hear who's replacing you before you've been told that you're being replaced, you know? Like, it's just not the way things are done, and I just feel like it's kind of hurtful. And not only that, they didn't do any, even after they announced Carlos, they didn't really do a farewell post to Logan. Like, there was one post with one sentence from James Vowles that was like, well, thanks, Logan. Peace. It's just like, fuck you. The actual quote he gave was, I want to thank Logan for everything he has done for the team, and I know he will continue to fight hard for us in the races ahead. fuck you. I do feel really, really bad for him. No, like, see you later, no memories, nothing. It's just rude, and it makes me feel really sad for him. And I do hope that the rumors of him going to IndyCar are true, because I think he needs to find a place he can truly thrive. And I really think he has it in him. He's been set up to fail by Williams, basically. The funniest thing I saw from the announcement about Carlos was RyanAir tweeted that now he's just an operator instead of a smooth operator, because Williams sucks. One of the comments was like you, RyanAir. Charles did post a carousel of him and Carlos and like pictures of them together, and wrote a very sweet post about how amazing it's been to have him as a teammate, and they still have half a season together. And it was just really sweet. And later on, towards the end of summer break, he did another interview, and they asked him what he would miss most about having Carlos as a teammate. And he just said, "I'll miss Carlos as a person." Charles. But my favorite post was from Carlos. I think he was the first one who said this, but someone else might have pointed out first. But this will officially be the first appendix-less lineup in F1 history, which might be my favorite fun fact of all time. Alex also did welcome to the team. He reshared on his story, which feels polite. You know, like, it wasn't too offensive to Logan. I don't know if he ever posted for Logan, but yeah, anyway. Jack Doohan has officially signed with Alpine. Apparently, by the way, his father was a very famous motorcycle road racing world champion. He has like 5 world championships, so damn. He was friends with Michael Schumacher because they were successful around the same time. So Jack kind of grew up around Mick and around Michael Schumacher, which is kind of cool. Anyway, I think everyone's super happy for Jack. He just seems like a really fun, cool guy. Patrick Mahomes congratulated him, and I'm just excited to see him on a grid. Also, side note, if Daniel does end up staying with RB, we will have 3 Aussies on track. But if he does get replaced by Logan, is his name Logan? Every time I say Logan, I feel like I'm messing it up. No, Logan is Liam. Logan's at Williams. Liam Lawson. If Liam Lawson ends up replacing Daniel, then we'll still have 2 Australians and 1 New Zealander, which is pretty exciting. All right, a couple of the main rumor that's been spreading around was that prior to the summer break, we heard rumblings that Daniel and Liam were going to do like a test drive together. Whether that happened or not, we're not sure, but both Dr. Helmet and Christian have been kind of adamant that the lineup will stay as it is, at least through 2025. To 2025. God knows what's going to happen then. So as it stands, the lineup for next year is as follows. Lando and Oscar for McLaren, confirmed. Max and Checo for Red Bull, technically confirmed, but honestly, if Checo's TBD. Charles and Lewis Hamilton for Ferrari, confirmed. George and we don't know who for Mercedes, though we basically know it's Kimi Antonelli, but Aston Martin is Fernando and Lance, confirmed. RB is Yuki and TBD. I'm assuming either Daniel or Liam. Haas is Oliver Bierman and Esteban, confirmed. Alpine is Pierre and Jack Doohan, confirmed. Williams, Alex and Carlos, confirmed. And Audi, Nico and TBD. So technically we have like 3.5 spots open. I say half because Checo's technically confirmed for next year, but we all know that seat is like fully at risk. All right, lap 2, off-duty F1, summer break edition. So everyone went on holiday, and obviously, as per usual, there were lots of yacht holidays. Lando dropped a carousel of his vacation, which included a shirtless picture that made him look quite possibly, it wasn't shirtless, his linen shirt was unbuttoned, but it quite possibly was the douchiest he has ever looked. Like, I can't describe it in words, you have to see it, I linked it. It was giving very much like, welcome to the OC, bitch, but worse. But yeah, lots of yacht activities. There were some hiking activities. Valtteri was cycling as per. Some non-yacht activities, however, was the Olympics. I honestly expected to see way more Olympic presence than I'm seeing. Maybe I missed something, but I guess most of them truly were just yachting for the summer. Except for one, of course, because where there are celebs, there's Lewis Hamilton. Just kidding. Lewis did go to the Olympics to cheer on his friend, US fencer named Miles Shamley Watson, who when I read that, I was like, this man is British, and he just moved to America and fences for America. He did sit with his BFFs Shaun White and Nina Dobrev. And it was very cute. There was a funny video of him like wheeling Nina Dobrev around in her little wheelchair. And there's also a picture of him and Snoop Dogg. Also, George went to the Eras Tour with his girlfriend and niece. He claims he is now a full Swiftie. I think I believe him. I think it's hard to go to the Eras Tour and not leave a Swiftie. Logan Sargent and Alex Albon did another episode of their Williams podcast after the end of summer break. And Alex told a story about how they were asked if they hung out during the summer break, and Logan was like, no. And Alex was like, well, we almost hung out. Logan was in the south of France and I was in the south of France, so I texted him if he wanted to hang out, we could hang out, and he never replied. And Logan was like, I mean, I see this guy every day. What am I gonna do with him during the summer break? So yes, leaving poor baby Alex on red is rude. But personally, if I had just been fired from a team that had spent over a year setting me up to fail, I really wouldn't want to hang out with anyone from work, no matter how much I like them. And honestly, it's probably better for his mental health not to be spending time with his very, very lovely teammate, but who does still have a job, and he doesn't. You know, it's just hard. So I get him not wanting to hang out with Alex during the summer break. He could have texted him back though. Also, these podcasts in general have been really great because I like that there's no like host. It's just them talking to each other, and you really get to know their personalities and see the dynamic between them a bit better. And it's been kind of nice to get to know them that way. Another hilarious clip from this particular episode was Alex asking Logan if he had a brat summer, and Logan said he doesn't know what that is, and Alex said, I don't either, but it sounds like it's something for you. And I lolled. Other news outside of summer break activities, we found out that Oscar broke his rib. He said he had the scan at Silverstone, but it was definitely broken before that, which means he drove at least 3 races knowing he had a broken rib. He said it was probably broken in Austria, but it was disturbed in Barcelona. Most wildly, he won a race with a broken rib, which just goes back to my theory that you need to have some sort of physical damage in order to succeed in Formula One. We have 3 examples of that. We have Lance with his broken wrists. We have Carlos with his appendix. Someone else was maimed. Oh yeah, Lando had his nose damage when he won the race in Miami. And now we have this. So there's something to this theory. Not that everyone should go physically maiming themselves, but you know, means something. But he said basically that it was from just driving in general and a poorly fitted McLaren seat, which has now been fixed. The just from driving bit, it's clearly bullshit because no one else is breaking their ribs from sitting down. But I think it's insane that McLaren can't make a proper seat for their driver. They literally have his custom measurements. Like, it's so easy to get it right. And an excellent move from Kick Sauber. They had Guan Yu rate the outfits from summer break from some of the drivers. His responses were hilarious. Like, for example, they showed him a picture of Esteban, and he was like, this is very yacht style, you know? And then for one of Charles's outfits, he goes, I will not rate this, but Leo's cute. If like Sky or any other news... Damn. If Sky or like any other news channel does not retain Guan Yu after he loses his seat for fashion commentary for every Sunday in the paddock, big mistake, huge. Another thing that was really funny is that Charles did the Off the Grid podcast and he talked about training Leo. And he was like, the funniest thing is like, he kept peeing all over the house and I kept taking him over to the pee pad and telling him to pee there. But now, he still pees all over the house, but once he's finished, he goes and sits on the pee pad and looks up at me and being like, see, I did what you told me to do. And he's like, and I can't be mad because he's looking at me with those eyes. And like, that's exactly how I imagine Charles to train his dog. Like just having no self-control to discipline the dog, like just too soft and like too like loving to discipline him. But also when he's like, Leo's looking up at me from the pee pad with these eyes, I feel like that's the same face Charles just makes in general. So I feel like they're just staring at each other with puppy dog eyes and it just makes me laugh. Lap 3, previously on F1 2024. Okay, I know we never had a Belgian Grand Prix episode because we went straight into summer, but there was a bit of drama there towards the end of that particular race. So just wanted to quickly recap how we ended up with a very weird Mercedes win. Okay, it's gonna be a very brief summary, but basically the conditions in Spa were a bit strange. Most teams had come to the conclusion that it was a two-stop strategy. As things progressed throughout the race, we had different leaders at different times, but at a certain point, George ended up leading the race. As he's leading the race, he makes a suggestion to finish the race on a one-stop strategy. He is allowed to do so, and he wins. And it is a glorious moment for little George Russell, who has already won a race this year, but this one was definitely more on merit. Everyone's very happy for him, except for one person. Lewis is very pissed off at the team because he was forced to pit, which allowed George to take the lead. He said his tires were perfectly fine, so he just basically wasted time on a pit stop and then was forced to re-warm up his new tires when his previous ones were just fine. He was really ticked off. The cool down room was even more awkward this time around than it had been in the Hungary. Oscar attempted to make small talk, and Lewis just barely answered him. I think the only thing we got out of him was that his tires were fine when he was forced to pit. Poor Oscar is like forced into the second awkward cool down room of his career, just like in a row. Although, remember last week when Lando was super pissy at Lewis and he was like, well, you were fast 7 years ago and now we're fast. And Lewis was like, chill, bro. You weren't even here 7 years ago. And then later when he was asked about it, he's like, well, Lando's young. I'm almost 40. I remember when emotions used to get the better of me. They don't anymore, but I guess they do. He just hasn't had a reason to be emotional in a while because while he's not like necessarily like snapping like sassy remarks at people, he was definitely grumpy and he was not hiding it very well. Again, he had reason to be upset, but yeah, same reaction basically. Anyways, we did the podium. Oscar was once again left out to celebrate on the podium by himself. I don't know how this is happening, and I'm pretty sure he's one of the nicest people on the grid, so I don't know why he keeps being left out of things, but whatever. Anyways, not long after this, we suddenly hear that George's car had failed the weight inspection in Park Ferme. He was apparently 1.5 kilograms underweight. The matter was sent to the stews, who determined that George was disqualified from the race. So poor George Russell was forced to make a double Instagram post within like 15 minutes of each other, being like, just kidding, didn't win. And it's just like so embarrassing. And I feel so bad for him because like it's not his fault. It's the team's fault. And I've seen some mixed takes on this, whether Mercedes intentionally cheated or it was an accident, because Spa, the type of track that Spa is with really long straights, and like, in addition to him only pitting one time, they didn't take into account how much the car could weigh, even though they should have. They should have like taken into account all options, but ultimately, whether it's intentional or not, the disqualification falls on the team, but George is the one who must endure the most like embarrassment. So I feel very bad for him. And he said after, I think it was during press conferences this week, that he still feels like he's earned that win, and no one can take that feeling away from him. It's just sad that like technically he did not win. Anyways, Lewis Hamilton is now the official race winner, and he was able to do what he does best and made a very dignified post about his mixed feelings for the results and how he's happy to get the win, but sorrows, prayers to George and the team for the 1-2. Literally sorrows, prayers though, because Lewis degaps about this team and he's just so over everything that he does not care. I don't think he even cared that he won by this technicality, because like it wasn't celebrated properly, and he was led to that. He wasn't given you know what I mean? Like the team still like let him down by giving him a weird strategy. So the team fucked up basically. Dig in the box, Spa Grand Prix, Mercedes. Anyways, this was a very messy and an aftermath of the Belgian Grand Prix. It reminds me honestly of the Jordan Chiles. I don't know if anyone watches the Olympics, but for the U.S. gymnastics floor final, Jordan Chiles missed out on bronze by like, I can't remember how many like eighths of a point, just like very, very, very small to this girl in Romania. And America submitted for them to re-evaluate, and she was given the bronze medal as that girl had already started celebrating. It was before the ceremony, so she didn't like go up. It wasn't like snatched from her from the podium. So that girl was like upset. Jordan Chiles is on the podium because she won the bronze because contested the score, and it was proven that they were right. Jordan and Charles had been scored incorrectly. And then like 2 weeks later, they decided that America had submitted the request for appeal too late by like 6 seconds or something. And so they stripped Jordan Childs of her bronze medal and shipped it to Romania. Like, that's so embarrassing and rude. And just like, I know this happens a lot in F1. We've seen like teams like doing the cute social post of them like walking the trophy over. And it's definitely worse on the Olympic scale because they're like in opposite countries and they're not seeing each other week to week. So it like feels like more brutal to make like Jordan Childs like FedEx her bronze medal to Romania. But it's a similar thing where it's just embarrassing and stupid and just like, whatever. Lap 4, trackside at Zandvoort. No Ocon was there. The first post I saw was him at McLaren. Slightly disappointed. Don't think that's the vibe. I don't think no one knew, but that's not really his vibe. He also stopped by RB and then Red Bull, and I think those are more his vibe. Personally, I think he'd be really good friends with Valtteri. I don't know if that introduction was made, but like I really think they'd get along. Gene Haas was there. I don't think I've ever seen Gene Haas in the flesh. My suspicion is, watch this be like really obvious, and I'm like, my suspicion, look at me deducing things, and it's like really obvious. But there was a bunch of drama with Uralkali, which is the company that was a former title sponsor of Haas, and it's owned by Nikita Mazepin's dad. And when Russia attacked Ukraine, Haas withdrew their partnership with Uralkali. And now Uralkali is demanding like all these assets. It's about $10 million worth of money that Haas has not paid them, essentially. And there were like barristers or something. Or bailiffs. There was someone on track trying to sort this out. And basically, unless Haas can show proof of payment to Uralkali before whatever, they're not allowed to leave Zandvoort until they show proof of payment. And if they're unable to provide that, then they will not be able to compete in Italy. Akko Taco. Why didn't they pay it off? Like, of course they should have cut all ties and everything, but why would they set themselves up for this situation? Whatever. That's why I think Gene Haas is there. Lando's mom randomly showed up during their like fan stage event and Lando's like in the middle of talking and goes, "Oh, it's my mom." And it was so funny because literally no one thought he was telling the truth. Like he just kept going, "Oh, it's my mom, hello." And they just like waving at her. And then finally Oscar goes, "Oh my God, it is your mom." And Lando's like, "Yeah, it's my mom." And then like 30 seconds later, the announcer goes, "Oh my gosh, is that your mom in the audience?" And she was like, "How does it feel to have her here?" And Lando was like, "I didn't know she was here." So it sounds like she really surprised them just like in the Netherlands in general. But it was very cute. It was just really funny, like domino effect of like everyone realizing that Lando wasn't just being like, "Oh, it's my mom." Also, one of my favorite part of the Dutch Grand Prix is the fact that the entire country like really rallies behind Max Verstappen to the point that all the trains headed to Zandvoort during this weekend have been renamed the Max Express. Obsessed. The other thing I want to talk about, and when I first saw these, I thought it was fucking weird. I saw some people calling it heartwarming. That's not the vibe I got. Maybe I just like, there's lore that I'm unaware of or something, but I thought it was a little weird. So basically my friend texted me during the podium ceremony and was like, "These are really ugly." And at first I thought it was just because it was white with like just a lion on it or whatever. And I was like, yeah, they're kind of boring. But then I like looked them up and I saw it closer with my glasses on. And it's just like a bunch of like words, like handwritten all over the trophies. And it turns out Robbie Williams, the singer, designed them, which already a million questions. Why Robbie Williams? He's not Dutch. I don't think he's into F1. Just why? Unless, again, there's something I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I saw a clip of him saying he doesn't like F1. So, and then like, the second question is like, what is this theme? Like, it's handwritten bubbles of like all the things the drivers have given up in order to be a driver. And at first I thought it was like written by children or something. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. Like, anytime kids are involved, it's like, fine, cute. Like, this is what they think that it takes to be an F1 driver. No, it seems like they were all just written by Robbie, come up with and written by him. And they're all like phrased kind of weirdly, and they're written like super, I don't know. It's just very weird. Like, it has sacrificing holidays and very special occasions, pushing through minor injuries and fatigue, early mornings and late night training sessions, high levels of stress, giving up comfort food and treats, enduring physical and mental discomfort, giving up personal aspirations, less downtime and or personal leisure, coping with the heartbreak of failure. Like, it sounds like ChatGPT wrote it, or a child, but not like an adult man who's known for his songwriting. He also has terrible handwriting. Anyway, I thought that was weird. Evidently, it's heartwarming, so maybe there's something I'm not understanding, but those are my thoughts on the trophy. Anyway, that concludes our digital warm-up. On to the race rhyme. Do you see how right at the start Lando gives up the lead? Very demure, very mindful. He's not like you other boys, maintaining track position with his speed. He doesn't do too much. He doesn't need to show off his skills as soon as the lights go out and he has to go. He's very mindful when he overtakes Max later and lets that gap grow. And you see how cutesy he celebrates beating Max at his home race? There's nothing more cutesy than rubbing your friend's loss in their face with their own catchphrase. So anyways, yay to Lando for his win, but our most mindful MVPs are Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. You see how the next GP has culture, history, and pace? Very demure to head to Monza for our next race. Okay, on to analysis. So starting off with quali, it was really funny. In Q1, Carlos literally goes slower than everyone else in the session, and by the end of the session, he goes the fastest. It's kind of Carlos of him. Also, this was a fun fact, nothing to do with quali, but dropped during quali, was that Fernando is the third driver to race after their 43rd birthday. The last one was in like the 70s. So, wow. Lewis got a three-place grid penalty for impeding Checo, so he will now start in P12. This was like a whole thing. Checo got really grumpy and was like really pissy at Lewis. Lewis is like, there is nowhere for me to go. And it kind of sounds like there wasn't anywhere for Lewis to go. He got out of the way as much as he could, but unfortunately, regardless of what he could or couldn't do in the situation, he was still impeding Checo. So also, tragically, before I get into Alex, in FP3, Logan ended up having a horrible crash. The conditions were terrible during FP3. It was like damp. It was like one of those, like, it had rain, it wasn't raining anymore, but like the track conditions were kind of weird. And he, on some corner, he lost control of the wheels, I think, basically, and he was like on fire. George was like ready to like leap out of his car to help Logan out. James Vowles was very angry at Logan, even though it wasn't, like, it was his fault, but it wasn't his fault. Like, the conditions, you know, like, things have changed so much since that time when he got, like, heat stroke in Bahrain or wherever that was. Like, what, or Qatar, but like, why? I just don't understand what Logan did to poor James Vowles. I mean, what poor Logan did to James Vowles, not poor James Vowles. But anyway, James was really pissed. They did not fix his car in time. I'm not sure they even tried, honestly. It's like he was punishing him. And honestly, he should have gotten Alex's car because that's the sort of logic they've operated on before. So I don't really see why he wasn't given Alex's car. Anyway, so he wasn't able to compete in qualifying, so he was automatically going to start at the back of the grid because they couldn't fix his car in time, or wouldn't. And then Alex qualified, I think, like P8, but his floor was found to be illegal or something. According to James Vowles, like 4/100ths of a centimeter too thick. And then he was like, this is the world we live in, like aggravated, but like, bro, you're the one who likes data. Measure it correctly. So anyway, Alex was disqualified from qualifying and allowed to race at the steward's discretion. So he was also starting at the back of the grid, but because he was disqualified after Logan was put to the back of the grid, he starts behind Logan, which means Logan out-qualified Alex. I have zero reason to be such a Logan sympathizer, but I am. I just feel bad for the guy. And I love him. Kevin is starting from the pit lane because his car was modified under park firm conditions and he's had power unit elements replaced, so he can't stay where he qualified. Okay, so the starting grid is as follows. Lando, Max, Oscar, George, Checo, Charles, Fernando, Stroll, Gasly, Carlos, Yuki, Nico, Daniel, Lewis, Ocon, Bottas, Guan Yu, Logan, Alex, and Kevin. All right, so I'm gonna talk about the race, but it's gonna be very short because in my mind, like 2 things happened. It was such a boring race. I will say everyone finished. There were no yellow flags or red flags. It was literally an eventless race. At the start, Max got a better start than Lando. I literally posted on my story as they're lining up. I was like, I wonder how long it's going to take for Lando to fumble his lead. And then literally half a second after it went, boop, he fumbled his lead. Max just shot ahead. Why is he so bad at race starts? It's like comical at this point. But both McLaren lost their initial spots, with George zooming ahead of Oscar. The funniest part is, I mean, McLaren really is lucky that their car is good, the Red Bull's car is bad, and that also Lando and Oscar are great drivers. That's really helping them out here, because their strategy is weird. And like just I don't know what the word is, it's not strategy, but like I guess communication is weird. They literally, as soon as Lando lost the lead, they phoned him on the radio and were like, so who's our race with? And Lando's like, I don't know, the car ahead. They're just not good at that part of it. They built a good car. They have good drivers. Check. Strategy and communications? No, bad. Eventually, around lap 17, Lando ends up overtaking Max. They were practically wheel to wheel for a bit, and then he just kind of zooms by. Like, the Red Bull is really bad. Max complained a couple of times that he can't even turn, and then when you watch the onboard, he really can't turn. Like, the car is bad. The tires were doing poor. It was just not going well. So again, Max outperforming his car, finishing second. Checo started 5th and finished 6th. Which isn't bad, which is pretty good for him, but it's also not like, whoa. I forgot who it was, but someone was like, Red Bull is really lucky they have Max, and they really are. Like, it sounds like everyone else would be performing at the pace of Checo. The funniest quote to me was when the commentators went, Lando didn't lose his head. He lost the start, but not his head. And perhaps that is more important. I mean, they're just so eloquent with their words. That was pretty much all I wanted to talk about for the race. I'm really sorry that this analysis is so subpar, but I don't know what else to talk about. I'm clearly missing something. I'm sure there was some back of the grid action, but honestly, truly, what a fucking boring race. But it's good to be back. After the race, there was a video of Fernando and like Park Firm literally squatting by the McLaren car, going like this, trying to see under it. Because it seems he's as stupefied as the rest of us. Like, how did they do that? And how did Red Bull not do that? Max was also asked what he thinks about not winning for so long, which again feels like a really fucking rude question to ask someone. But he was like, it happens. What were they expecting from Max? Honestly, sometimes they ask these questions thinking Max is not going to be Max, but Max is Max. He was like, some people never win. Some people win all the time. I used to not win. Then I won. Now I'm not winning again. It happens, was basically the summation of his like response. I don't know what they thought was going to happen. Another thing I wanted to point out is that the cooldown room is shit. And this is me imploring F1 or Sky News or whoever the hell like is the A&V guy in the cooldown room to please get better microphones, because I can't hear a word they're saying. And then after, the commentators were like, we apologize for any fruity language you might have heard that might have offended you. Sorry, but I didn't hear anything, so I couldn't be offended. I want to be offended. Please tell me what they're saying. Anyway, driver of the day was officially Lando. This is like, today, obviously, no arguments, despite his little issue at the start. He just can't get it up fast enough. He won by almost 23 seconds, which is insane. So good for him. Totally won on merit. He deserves it. He has won driver of the day like 8 times. And I think that's insane. Not all of them were warranted. This one perhaps was. I do think that we have some solid alternative options up there for driver of the day. Max, his car looked like literally shit, and he finished second. Charles went from P6 to P3, much to the surprise of literally everyone, including Charles. He was like, it'll take a miracle for me to end up on the podium. And then he ended up on the podium, and he rocked it. And his car didn't, and he still got there. So, like, 10 out of 10 for the drivers driving shit boxes and still making it up on the podium. Tick in the box. I was all over the place with this. I don't know if this is wrong of me to say, but it really rubbed me the wrong way when Lando said "simply lovely" while crossing the finish line. I know maybe it's just sassy or cute or funny or petty, but for some reason, coming from him at the Dutch Grand Prix as he beats Max specifically, it just felt unnecessary and weird. It wasn't as funny as he thought, I feel like. But I also kind of want to throw Kevin in there because he did generate quite the train in the back, DRS train, trying to hold everyone back from Nico. And then he was overtaken by like 4 cars at the same time. It's kind of funny. Also, just to be petty, I think Williams for not giving Logan Alex's car when he crashed and Alex didn't. I think that's how they do it, right? So why isn't he driving Alex's car? I mean, Alex's car was illegal, so maybe it's for the best. All right, so the final results. Lando, Max, Charles, Oscar, Carlos, Checo, George, Lewis, Pierre, Fernando, Nico, Daniel, Lance, Alex, Esteban, Logan, Yuki, Kevin, Valtteri, and Guan Yu. The standings for the drivers are as follows. Max with 295, Lando with 225, Charles with 192, Oscar with 179, Carlos with 172, Lewis with 154, Checo with 139, George with 154, Alonso with 50, Stroll with 24. First of all, Lando's really catching up to Max, or Max is slowing down, whichever way we want to look at it. Oscar and Carlos are very close to each other, as are 2 maimed drivers of this particular season. Also, I don't think Oscar's rib could possibly be healed yet. Ribs take notoriously long time to heal, don't they? Because like you can't do anything about it. They're just there and you have to like hope it's fine. Don't know. All right, so the constructors are as follows. Red Bull with 434, McLaren with 404, Ferrari with 370, Mercedes with 276, Aston with 74, RB with 34, Haas with 27, Alpine with 13, Williams with 4, and Kick Sauber with 0. Red Bull and McLaren are 30 points apart from each other. McLaren and Ferrari are 34 points apart from each other. Ferrari and Mercedes are 94 points away from each other. And then Aston is like 202 points behind Mercedes. The jump is a little crazy. But anyway, that's somehow it for the Dutch Grand Prix. I'm so relieved for the season to be back in full force. My weekends felt super empty and like incomplete and it was kind of weird. I just had all this time that I wasn't spent watching races and editing audio and recording audio and editing video and watching other clips, and it was just empty. I felt a hole in my life. Anyway, next up is Monza. Make sure you subscribe, follow on social to keep up between races, and share with any potential boxes because the more the merrier. And as always, feel free to DM or email me with any thoughts, questions, etc., etc. Can't wait until next week. See you soon. Box.